the dose was too low, you didn't have any therapeutic effect. Whereas with the whole plant essential oil, you give a little bit, you have a little effect. You give more, you have a little more effect. And you didn't have to aim for a very narrow window. And I just want to read the final paragraph of the paper that was studied, because it sums up a very important point here. So, this is published in February of last year in the journal Pharmacology and Pharmacy. And it states, a lot of research has been made to isolate and characterize isolated single constituents of traditional herbal medicine to find their rationale for therapeutic uses. However, our data, together with those of others, provide legitimation to introduce a new generation of phytopharmaceuticals, plant pharmaceuticals, to treat diseases that have hitherto been treated using synthetic drugs alone. The therapeutic synergy observed with plant extracts results in the requirement for a lower amount of active components with consequent reduced adverse effects. Now, I think we don't want to paint with too broad a brush on the basis of one study, but there's been other studies that say basically the same thing. But I think it's sobering, and it really, to the extent that it really calls into question one of the sacred cows of Big Pharma, one of the sacred cows of the medical establishment, and that somehow single pure compounds are the ultimate form of medicine, and herbs are this sort of crude medicine that we need to extract the essence from. And that's embodied in this quote from the NIDA director, Nora Volko. You want to get as pure a medication as you can to minimize side effects. And this is a stunning comment. The head of NIDA, apparently she's never seen any drug ads on television. All they do is list side effects. And we know that many of the drugs that are approved through a very corrupt regulatory process not only have adverse side effects, but can be lethal. And you cannot say that about cannabis. So what has been the impact of CBD? Well, for starters, it has stimulated a huge growth in patients seeking medical marijuana who wouldn't necessarily think of that option because they don't want to get high. A lot of people don't enjoy the cannabis high. Fortunately, I am not among them. But many people really get the willies, particularly from THC-dominant cannabis, and it just doesn't agree with them. But now we have the option, now that CBD is a part of the mix, for people to access remedies that they are comfortable with and can do a lot of good. CBD amplifies THC's efficacy for various conditions, for treating pain, potentially for treating cancer. So that's another impact, that it makes the wonderful strains that people have been using with success for treating various conditions, it can actually make them more effective. And also, when you add CBD into the mix, it actually broadens the range of conditions that cannabis can treat. There are certain kinds of conditions that really don't come up strong for THC-dominant strains, cardiovascular conditions, liver conditions, some metabolic disorders. But CBD comes up very prominently as promising for those kind of conditions. And a fourth impact, I would add, that CBD has spawned a whole cottage industry mom and pops and some bigger companies who are making all kinds of products, CBD-rich products, and some of these are very fine artisanal products. The oils that are extracted using either the supercritical CO2 or the ethanol, these are excellent, high-quality products, and they're out there now in states such as California for people to access them. And you also have not such fine quality products too, and it's a mixed bag. It's an unregulated situation, but it gives people options. So I want to talk a bit about cannabis therapeutics as personalized medicine. One can spend hours on this subject. I am not a physician. At Project CBD, we don't treat people, but we do spend a lot of time at dispensaries, training dispensary staff, training the bud tenders, so to speak, sharing with them what we've learned about the best ways to interact with patients around who are seeking CBD-rich remedies. And without going into it too much, the benefits we have right now is that patients can adjust psychoactive effects according to what they're comfortable with. For some people, that means a strain or a product with very little THC. They want a CBD-dominant product. They're out there. For other people who are quite comfortable with CBD, maybe a one-to-one relationship, comfortable with THC and CBD, one-to-one relationship. That might work best. And you have every ratio in between. I'm showing an image here of the Care by Design product line, which I was involved as a consultant to help conceptualize. And what that is a series of ratios with the same amount of THC in each sublingual spray, but increasing amount of same amount of CBD, increasing amount of THC, so the person can find what they're most comfortable with. And in essence, without at the risk of oversimplifying, as we see it, the goal for patients who are oftentimes acting without the supervision of a physician who can really inform them in this area, the goal is to administer consistent, measurable doses of a CBD-rich remedy that includes as much THC as a person is comfortable with. So CBD misconceptions, there are many, unfortunately, and some of these are promoted by businesses that are looking to make money from marketing CBD. One of the main misconceptions we are confronted with on a regular basis at Project CBD, we get inquiries from all over the world, is people saying they're looking for CBD, the medical part, not the recreational part. Well, THC, the recreational part, is actually an approved medication. It's a Schedule III drug. It's federally approved in the United States. CBD is not a federally approved drug in the United States. Technically, CBD is legal on a federal level in every state. One of the myths that have been promoted is that CBD is somehow legal in all 50 states. That emphatically is not the case. Psychoactivity is an adverse side effect. That's another myth that's promoted. That according to the medical establishment, getting high from cannabis is an adverse side effect. Now, for some people it might be, if they're not comfortable with it, but for the millions of people, that adverse side effect actually contributes to the medical efficacy of cannabis. CBD is most effective without THC. That's another misconception. I think we've discussed that. Moving along quickly, single molecule pharmaceuticals are somehow superior to crude whole plant medicinals. That's another misconception. There are others, but we want to move on quickly to conclude it. Take-home messages from this talk. Cannabis therapeutics is personalized medicine. There is no one single remedy, one single strain, one single ratio between THC and CBD, one single dosage that's appropriate for everybody. We're not talking about something like aspirin. This is not about, take 2 pills and call me in the morning. Cannabis therapeutics is much more nuanced. It's much more real in a way. CBD and THC work best together. You've heard that from other speakers as well. And people who don't like to get high can benefit from CBD-rich cannabis. That's some of the take-home messages. I want to conclude just very briefly, talking about the situation we're in today. Cannabis has been a friend of humanity since before the written word. And now we are welcoming cannabis back into the pantheon of medicinal herbs, and that's very exciting. It's very exciting to be part of that process. But it's not written in stone, if you pardon the pun, where this is all going. We are in an era of incipient legalization. It's possible in California later this year, cannabis will be legalized for adult use. I certainly hope so. But at the same time, things are changing, and big money is moving in, and that's changing what used to be, we used to call it a community, now it's called an industry. And for some, CBD stands for colossal big dollars, and that's about it. And certainly big pharma is entering the game. I think it's virtual certainty that sooner rather than later we're going to see CBD, single molecule CBD, approved as a medication. And that's all to the good if people can benefit. I'm not saying that you can't benefit. I'm saying that I think it's more challenging to approach cannabis therapeutics that way than in terms of a whole plant context. But I would hope that, I think the key struggle in the months ahead, in the years ahead, is to make sure that this incredible laboratory experiment in democracy known as medical marijuana can continue after legalization for adult use. This is up for grabs, and we don't know how it's going to play out, but we should just keep in mind that, little Charlotte, didn't get what helped her, what saved her life from big pharma or from a pharmaceutical company. She got it from the medical marijuana, from a remedy that emerged from the medical marijuana experiment. And it's very, very important that that continue and not be overwhelmed by what's about to hit us. So thank you.
Imagine a world we could live in, planting seeds in the minds of our children. Plant these trees and grow a solution. Hemp can heal the world. minds of our children. And these trees have all our solution. Hell can save the world.
But remember, it took 400 years to convince white people in America not to own black people. You can see why this is taking so long. We can't even treat each other with kindness, let alone treat the chickens and the pigs and the turkeys and the insects of the world with kindness. But I noticed you have clothes on, and I noticed that you have a cell phone, you have a computer. It is unfair to pick one thing that lions do that you want to mimic, when you don't want to mimic anything else they do. When lions walk up and greet each other, they sniff each other's ass. When I came in this room, you did not kneel down and sniff my ass.